Well, how wonderful it is to have two wonderful guests on here today on Are You Ready for the Lord? Happen to have Randy Wallace, and I grab him anytime I get a chance, and he's always busy with church business, but when he's not, he gets come on here and be co-host with me, Randy Wallace. What's the telephone number there at Oak Ridge Baptist Church, Randy?
It's 356-7732.
7732, 356 7732. And we happen to have a gentleman here today, and I won't say an old friend, but a long friend. And that happens to be Dewey Sanders, and it's Dr. Dewey Sanders, psychologist. I think I got that term right, haven't I?
Right.
And he's just written a new book, and we're going to show that on the screen here on the show today. And in just a minute or two, when we get things moving here properly, and with my buddy Ryan Huey helping me here today from Charter Cable. But Dr. Sanders, what's the number folks can reach you if they want to learn some more information about the book or order a book?
Or 859-466-5437. 859-466-5437.
Fantastic. And the book can be bought on Amazon.com.
That's correct. And hopefully it's a paperback now, but hopefully it'll be in the next couple of weeks. It'll be an ebook as well.
Oh, fantastic. And what's the title of the book?
The title of the book is 60-Minute Guide to Fabulous Aging. Live long, healthy, happy, and young.
And that's what we want to do, isn't it, Randy? Amen. Amen. So we'll get started with the show here in just a second. Then I'm going to, let me get my watch out here so I know what I'm doing. After we start the music here, then I'm going to put a picture up here for, that I want you to zoom in on.
Okay.
Okay? I'll put it up right in front of the,
You want to just put it right in front of
right in front of the screen.
All right. When you see your yours and June's graphic come up,
Yeah.
go ahead and play it.
Play it, and
then
let it
I'll
play
fade-
out.
And then I'll fake out
Yeah.
when I see the picture.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Praise the Lord. Now let's see what time we're starting. You're going to leave, the time you need to leave here.
Well, just so I can get to my office, I gotta give me 30-40 minutes to get there and get set up for about 1 o'clock. I'm fine.
Okay, so you'll be fine then.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
And see, we're starting at about 15, 16, 17 till.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So, and it's an hour show, so. But I'll get you out of here before then.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, I can tell you, John. Tell my niece you all graduated together. I didn't realize that. So
Oh, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to tell her.
She was a smart girl.
Yeah, she did real well in life. You know, she was vice president of a couple of banks.
Yeah. She got to help me with some banking.
Yeah.
She's very bright. She was smart in high school. Oh, does that mean I'm going? Let's see here now. Johnny? Now, let's see here. What am I gonna do here? Try something here. Let me do this. Down here, start it over. Okay, we're ready, Ryan. A little tribute to Kenny Brown, who's been the Boone County clerk since 2010 and won his last election by 70% of the vote, and who I happen to know and sing for many times this song. Special honor to him. Oh, Kenny boy, the pipes are calling.
know and I espy. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. It's I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Daddy boy, oh, Kenny boy, I love you so. But when ye come and all the flowers are dying, if I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say, and I'll be there for me. And I shall hear the soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. And I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Kenny boy, we will miss you. Oh, Danny boy and Kenny boy, our friend, we will miss you down in the valleys and on the hilltops. Oh, Kenny boy, we'll miss you so. And I shall sleep in peace until you come to me, for you will bend and tell me that you love me so. And Kenny boy, we'll miss you as a family, for you were there when we did need you so. For you were there when we did need you so. We love you, Kenny Brown, and we will miss you, but you always brought a smile to our faces on St. Patrick's Day. And each time we ever sang for you. John Stephenson, former Superintendent of Education, Commonwealth of Kentucky, and a friend of Kenny Brown. Travels with the Stephensons. Praise the Lord, pass the emanation of godly principles, and Kenny Brown.
Well, now what you can see there was me taking the camera, Randy, out of the window. When you are operating on a tight budget, which most ministers do quite often, probably psychologists too.
Yeah.
When you're operating on a tight budget, you sometimes have to be the videographer, the production man, and the author of the part of the song. Improvise, as they used to tell me, John, improvise. Well, I'm taking off my glasses now. Miss June says, John, dignity and decorum. Dignity and decorum. She says, the hat's okay, but you better take the glasses off. So anyway, are you ready? Are you ready for the Lord? Well, we're ready for the Lord here, and Kenny Brown was ready for the Lord too, and the Lord's taking him home and taking that spirit right up into heaven. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit here, but I want to introduce my two guests today. Of course, my co-host, Brother Randy Wallace, out of the famous Oak Ridge Baptist Church, and I will talk a little bit about that church's beginning. It's coming up on the 165th year or 175th?
175.
175th year of existence. My goodness gracious sakes alive. He's got us beat.
Yeah, he's older than I am.
I haven't been there all that time.
Yeah.
And they'll probably be having a big ceremony out there, won't they, Rita?
Yeah.
Well, I hope I get a chance to come out. I look forward to it, if I'm still alive. And first of all, I want to say Miss June's at home with pneumonia still. bless her heart. For those watching this and seeing this evening, and this month, on Monday nights, she's gonna be back with the Lord's help this Monday night at 6:30 at, the Bethesda Community Church, up there on Highway 536, right there before you get to the Boone County line. There's a little lake there on the side, and you ladies that haven't come yet, out there across northern Kentucky that wanna come and join those, I think she's got 20 other ladies there, and this Beth Moore Bible study class on Esther. And Miss June does a superb job with that, with the Spirit of the Lord on her. And smartest move I ever made is I always say, Randy's a tried it, I'm accurate, aren't I?
Yeah.
And next to Randy sits Dr. Dewey Sanders, who's been practicing psychology and a psychologist and counseling, and now has become even an author of a great book, which I highly want to recommend to you. We're going to talk about that, but Dr. Sanders has practiced for how many years?
42 years, and also served churches for 27 out of that at the same time.
My goodness gracious,
So
sakes
I
alive.
try to stay out of trouble.
You, I hope the therapist doesn't tell you to slow down.
Yeah, so I'm trying to keep up with you, John. And,
What we're talking about there, I had this accident. Well, actually, I didn't have an accident. The deer had the accident. I was driving the vehicle, and Miss June was in the car, and behind us was one of my favorite sister-in-laws, Sylvia Guyman, and her husband, Lonnie Loneman. Well, she's a Loneman now too, and great couple. And they were out there with us, Randy, at La Rosa's in Nicholson. And I always like to put a plug in for Buddy LaRosa, you know, he's a friend of mine. But anyway, we were there having supper, and then we was headed over to church because they had a group of young folks coming in from Czechoslovakia to entertain. And I just couldn't wait to get over there to film them and put it on television. And if anybody's seen it on my shows that travels with the Stephensons, or on our show here, Are You Ready, or on Facebook with John Stephenson, you know what I mean, and what it takes. Here you are, all these young people come over here from Czechoslovakia, playing some beautiful symphony music for everybody with violins. It's just, I loved it. I just really loved it. Well, on the way over to the church from La Rosa's, you know, I played Santa Claus for 50 years, Randy. Well, one of those things you don't want to do is you don't want to upset Rudolph. And I must have said something or done something that Rudolph got very upset. He decided to fly out of the woods and ran right smack dab into June's brand new car from down there at Toyota, where my two daughters work for Toyota, you know. And so they helped me get this car for Miss June, and $3,000 worth of damage. And unfortunately, when you weigh as much as I do, 395 pounds, there's not much place you can go in a car when you have an impact except into something.
yeah.
I went into a few things, so my therapist tells me today, you need to slow down doing things to give your body a chance to heal. And I said, well, which part do you want me to slow down with? So that's the story of that. So I'm trying to take his advice, and I'm gonna try to slow down just a wee bit. But we're here today with Dr. Dewey Sanders. Now, I'd like to ask Doc if you would tell us just a little bit about how this book came about. Why did you decide to write one? But I know it's been inside you for a long time.
It's been coming for a long time, but you know, when we were all young, we used to hear from our ministers, the body's the temple of God. And a lot of us didn't take care of our bodies like we should have for many years. And in my late 30s and early 40s, I began to make some changes and try to improve my health. And you know, eventually I got into like walking, and then I was never an athlete and got into running. And you know, eventually that led to marathons. I've run 82 full marathons, including New York and Boston and all. So I've really been blessed that way. And then, you know, I love to eat, like all of us probably do here at this table.
Some more than others.
Some more than others, but I don't know. I love donuts because my family, if you had a good time, you celebrated with donuts. You had a bad time, you comforted yourself with donuts. And Latonia Bakery was where I grew up. And And so I fought that all my life. And so 10 years ago, I went to Weight Watchers, and I've been at goal for about 9.5 years. And out of that, a lot of things have happened. In 2004, I walked across the United States from Virginia Beach to San Francisco. My wife drove, and I walked 3,355 miles. And it was a goal of a life. I wanted to do that from high school on, but it was something that finally came to a head. And we raised about $80,000 to keep kids off drugs and alcohol.
Oh, wonderful.
And then in 2005, I walked the beaches of D-Day from Cannes to Pointe du Hoc and Caraton and St. Mary-Glise. Wonderful experience, but just to honor our vets and to show some caring about them, because it was a great day. D-Day was a great day in American history. But all of that came together, and I thought, what am I going to do with my life from here on? I was 67, 68 years old. And it began to occur to me, Hebrews 12 has always been, 12:1 has always been my favorite verse. Seeing we're surrounded with so great a cloud of witnesses, and all of us have people watching us all the time. And so in doing that, I began to think I need to be a witness to people, be a role model, and I thought that sounded kind of arrogant, but that's what God calls us to be, is to be out there and be a role model. And so my goal is to live all the way to the end of the road as full of life as I can live. And whatever it is, I want to live and enjoy the life that God's given me, but to set an example for people along the way that if you take care of yourself, that you can live there. Well, I started reading, I started preparing for this book, and I read 35 books over a 10-year period. And so many of them would be 300 pages, and or 500 pages, you get one or two ideas. And we're not going to read that much in today's world, most people. And so finally I came up with the idea of just cutting it down to something that people could read in an hour. And that's where the 60-minute guide came from. Now, it's not a lot of new stuff, John. It's a lot of things in there you already know, but it's all in one place.
All in one place, and it condenses it for you.
It condenses it, and it even has a checklist in the back, and you can decide what you need to work on or what you're already doing, and that help you make progress toward the better you live, quality life you live, the longer you're going to live, and the happier and all you're going to be. If you people that smoke heavy all their life, people that drink heavy all their life, that kind of thing, when they get older, they're not going to be as happy and healthy. And that's what that's all about. That's what the minister said, the body's a temple of God. You got to take care of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Randy, do you have anything you'd like to say about that?
We got to discuss a little bit at Brother Dewey's sister's funeral visitation about this, and I'm really excited about it. I've shared with him about the 60-minute thought. Did you ever read The 1-Minute Manager? It's a little book about organization, and it says paperwork and stuff, which has always been a bane to me. Deal with it in 1 minute. And I love the idea with this of 60-minute, quick out, so you can get the idea and go on. And I'm sure that it's got a bunch of good ideas. I like the idea too of the genetics versus lifestyle, and how so many times, we do it across the board as human beings. We talked a little bit about this as human beings, that we tend to blame anything and anybody else that we can, instead of taking personal responsibility. And usually things, because with things, they can't defend themselves. So if it's our environment's fault, if it's our genetics fault, but there are things that we can do, and this really is bringing that out, that the genetic part it's part of it, but it's not all of it. And we're not helpless victims, and you can take a proactive approach. I love this.
As Christians, we're called to live a good lifestyle. And as I said, we all haven't always done that in our lives. And I know people that have lived very healthy lifestyle and died young because of genetics. I also know people that lived very terrible lifestyles and lived quite long, but they didn't always live a healthy long because of that. I do believe from everything I read that if you take care of yourself and try to have as healthy a diet, keep active, keep moving, have a strong faith, that you're going to live a lot longer and a lot happier and healthier. And hopefully, I'm 82 years old, and I'm injured today because I tried to run the half marathon Sunday, and that's the first time I've ever not finished a half marathon. I've always finished those. But I had an injury to my leg a year ago, and I've run a few halves since then. But that's what God calls me to do, is be out there and set an example. You guys have different things that God's calling you to do. But that's where this book came from, we're surrounded with that great cloud of witnesses.
Well, now, I'm gonna have to tell you something now, Dewey. I can't lie to you. Gotta tell you the truth. Anybody can look at me on TV and tell exactly where I'm weak.
Yeah.
When you weigh 395 pounds and you're 6 foot tall, some guy said to me the other day, he said, "Come on down here and do a stump speech." And that was Robert Sanders, a lawyer, you know, his son's Rob Sanders, the Commonwealth attorney.
Great.
So I said, well, I went down and did the stump speech, and we showed it on television this last month here on the show. And I said, somebody said, "But John, how come you didn't stand up there on the stump?" And I said, "Because I didn't want to look like an elephant on a fence rail." And I said, so I stood beside the stump, plus the fact it was ice and snowy out there, and I didn't want to slip and fall, because that's a little dangerous when you're on Xarelto. Now, the truth is, I'm gonna read this book, and I'm gonna try to take it to heart as a Christian.
Yeah.
Because I need to lose some weight. Now, I've been needing to lose weight, and I did lose it all one time. Big stories about me in the Kentucky Post.
Oh, yeah.
I weighed 427 pounds, and due to accidents again, I'm eating up a storm, I don't stop. When you're not exercising, it's gonna come like on you. And I did run sports. I ran 100, 220, and 440 at Simon Kenton High School, was the fastest in the high school. Martha will tell you that.
Yeah, years change things, don't it? Right.
So the way I lost the weight the last time was I started walking, then eventually went from walking to riding a bike and running. And now I probably can't do all those things again as much as I did.
Right.
But there are things I can do. I got me a new walker now.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I can have a little walker where I can walk behind it. And I went to the therapist here the other day, and he gave me a bunch of things to do to work with my back problems and leg problems and knee problems and shoulder problems, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sitting here now, I'm gonna look in the eye. I'm on television, folks, and I'm gonna try not only to lose a little weight, but get myself back together as best I can. Maybe slow down just a little bit on some things, but I'm inspired by just what you've said here, Dr. Sanders.
Well, you know, it's weird. My first marathon was New York in 1991. And I did it great for 13, 14 miles. And then I hit the bridge coming over to Manhattan, and my legs locked up, and I ran like a duck for the last 11, 12 miles. But at mile 23, there was a veteran with one leg on crutches. He had veteran's hat on and shirt. And he was just taking a breather. He had got an early start, but he was already at mile 23 with one leg in crutches. And I thought, you know, if he can do that, he really inspired me, and I never forgot that over the years. And
That is inspiring.
it is. It's just a wonderful thing. And, you know, we all can't be perfect, and none of us are. And one of the things I love about Weight Watchers is they say occasionally you got to celebrate. And so when I go out of town, I eat donuts. I don't eat them in town. That's one of my rules, you know. But on the other hand, you go right back on it, and after you celebrate and get back on doing the things you know you need to do.
Well, one of the things that really helped me lose weight before was controlling my intake of food and eating the right foods.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I still eat a lot of the right foods and do that right, but you've got to watch today when you go out and buy foods, because foods that they tell you are good for you sometimes are not.
That's right.
And I've been doing some reading on all of that and trying to, even like yogurts, you know, if you buy the normal yogurts, you gotta look at the label and see how many grams of sugar it's got in it,
Right.
how many corn syrup, or they use this corn syrup to sweeten things, which is hard for your system, digestive system.
And they hide that.
And they hide it.
Yeah.
So you gotta really trust to some judgment of your therapist and your doctors, and the health professionals, but it's common sense too, so I'm gonna start with a little fresh look and, read the book, take some of your tips. You got some more you wanna tell us
Well, there's
about?
one, I'm gonna send you a list, and I can send it to Randy too. I go to Weight Watchers every week I'm in town, and cause it's free once you stay at goal, if you stay at goal. And, it's 203 0-point foods. And like eggs, for example, I love eggs. You know, some mornings I'll have 3 or 4 boiled eggs, 0 points. And then, I eat low point, bread with a little bit of sugar-free jelly or something. I have like 3, 4 points for breakfast, and yet I'm full to noon. I love the turkey, fish, chicken, you know, not fried chicken like I grew up on and love, but it's just foods I can have, fruits and veggies and so many things. And you're right, I love what you said, because there are so many foods out there that you think are good and you get to eat them and they're not.
Now, the low carb, Kroger low carb, yogurt, I think is okay,
Yeah, I think that's right.
from what I've read the label on, and that's what June's very good. My wife, well, I tell you what, the smartest move I ever made. She does make sure I get, when I'm around her, the right foods. But you know, in politics and politicians, same way sometimes with ministers, by the way. You know, when you go out, people wanna feed you.
Oh, they do.
And the bigger you get, the more they wanna feed you.
Oh,
And you know, you go from place to place, meal to meal, and, you know, before long, I got to the point where eventually, I don't wanna eat here, but when I'd go home, then I'd reward myself.
oh, yeah.
And if you got the wrong food in the place, in the house, you're gonna reward yourself with the wrong things.
Yeah.
And,
Ministers struggle. I served a little church in Corbin from 1963 to 66, and these ladies would bring pie, but they wanted you, or cakes, and everyone wanted you to taste them. And I remember one night eating 5, 6, 7 pieces of pie and cake, and then I was up all night long. And I was a young person then, but I learned some lessons along the way, but it's still hard to avoid it when it looks so good.
now, one of the things you've noticed, folks, you haven't noticed, June will remind you, I've got this green hat on. Happens to be St. Patrick's Day coming up this Sunday. And I've been told I'm Scotch-Irish. Now, I have not done a test on myself, so I don't wanna claim something that, you know,
Right.
it isn't accurate. Politicians gotta be careful with that, you know. But, I've been told I'm Scotch-Irish, and, we've had a few people that have passed away here, and that's sad, but it's also a blessing. And I'm gonna put a picture up here, that I want, Ryan back there to zoom in on if he would. And this is a picture of Danny Stickrod and the boys down at the barber shop, Sparrow and Newton's barber shop, hairstylist, whatever you wanna call them, Todd and, Harry Sparrow and Daryl Newton, Todd Newton. Well, they belong to something called the Dixie Boys, and they're graduates from Dixie High School. All of them are. You recognize some of them there, I'm sure. I know everybody knows, of course, the barbershop guys. If you haven't had your hair cut by Sparrow and Newton, you're not a real Kentuckian, you know. And so I always tell people, if you're not gonna stay there, at least get your hair cut once there. It bonifies you. And if they don't know it, it's not worth knowing.
Well,
Most barbershops
Oh,
are that
yeah,
way.
that's right.
But anyway, you got Frank Hicks there, and you got Judge Green from out in Boone County. And to come down here, I know this one gentleman right here is my brother-in-law, Jay Brander. And if his kids ever wise up, I'll get to see him again. But he was there. He's 93 years old. Now next to Jay, the gentleman there, he's 90, just turned 95 here in February. That's Harold Krause. Jay and Harold grew up with each other right down there, and I used to take them on their ride down through there to see their place about twice a week. That's the ride they like to go on. And then we come up over Wolf Road and down to Coursey, and where he met my sister Barbara, who taught school for 30 years, and Erlanger, Barbara Brander Stephenson. And that was always the trip he loved to take in his rides. And you'll see some of these other folks over here that I know a lot of people know. Jim Morrison's there somewhere. There he is right there. Doc Rusk Keating. He was the runner of that outfit for many, many years, and had the famous telephone number 4040.
4040.
That's right. And wonderful family. And he was one of the founders, you all will know this, Randy. Jim Morrison was one of the founders, along with Gil Hammond, of the Fort Mitchell Prayer Breakfast, which I've gone to since 1974. And I have a little trouble getting there right now because it takes June and I about 2 hours in the mornings just to get all of our medical deals together before we can leave the house. So you gotta take that in consideration when I'm losing weight now.
Yeah,
Dewey.
makes a difference. It makes a difference.
First 2 hours, we gotta do each other's feet and legs and, well, all sorts of things. But, these guys here, wonderful group of guys, that I think that, I love the fact that they meet at Colonial Cottage, every other month, and have done so for years and years. In fact, I'm gonna take this picture that I took of them. I sang for them. They've adopted me. Dick Stickrod right there, the guy right in front's the one that passed away, and the boys asked me if I'd come and sing at his funeral, and I did. And my old Kentucky home said some words. But Dick was one of those guys that had a sense of humor, like an Irish sense of humor. And so I was coming in there and went to speak and to sing one day, and he said, "Oh, wait a minute, he's not from Dixie. Where do you go to high school?" I said, "Simon Kenton." He said, "Well, I don't know if we can handle that or not." So my friend down here, Asa Rouse, where is he? Somewhere on this picture here is Asa Rouse, and I'm trying to think, there he is right there. Asa Rouse in the blue shirt. Asa says, "We'll adopt him." So they made a motion, so they adopted me into the Dixie Boys. So this was the last meeting they had. Then I went back to the last meeting. I sang for them that day, my old Kentucky home, and filmed it, and we put it on television and had a great time there. But I wanted to say a special tribute to Dan Stickrod, who passed away, who had that same type of sense of humor that you're talking about, that love of life. And one of the other things I'd put up here to show on the show, right here, Ryan in the back, there was his sweatshirt with his letter jacket, with the sports that he played in.
Wow.
And his family gave that to Daryl and Todd and Harry down at the barber shop there in Fort Wright, gave that to them to post on their wall. They got a wall down there where all the veterans have signed in.
Wow.
Dewey, you're gonna have to drop down there and sign yourself and meet these guys. They got a wall down there for that. And so I'm glad to make a little highlight for them on the show here today, there at Sparrow Newton's, and that wonderful personality of Dan Stickrod's and his family. And then this coming Friday, Dewey, there's another group I gotta sing for, Randy. Lucille, Landingham, this Friday night. Karen Jenkins, who's been at the Board of Realtors office for Northern Kentucky, which this is my 47th year, or no, 49th year. I almost lost a couple years. They reminded me it's my 49th year, so I'm signed up for dues and fees and all that stuff one more year. So if you want me to sell your house, or list your house for sale, I sold one this last year,
Oh, yeah.
It was a great sale. Gil Hammond sold his house. And did you know that they took the entire $146,000 and donated it to the Christian radio station?
Oh, wow.
And we sold the house to I just was so thrilled. We sold the house to a group home for ladies with their children where they were rehabbing themselves with drugs. So that was a win-win thing for the Lord. Wow. And I had a part in being that, along with Keller Williams and Steve, the realtor there, and his wife, just wonderful. But I was the broker in that, so I really was thrilled about that kind of a sale. So I'll be still selling Can't do
Still-
steps yet, but I'll
good.
still be there. Now, so we mentioned Lucille Landingham, and she had that same personality that Miss June's got. Cat lover. You know, Miss June's got 3 cats. And I know one of the guys that says a lot about scripture said the other day, we shouldn't refer to our cats as our children or as children because they don't have the Holy Spirit. And I said, well, he must not know my cats.
Yours do.
I said, he might not, the cats might not have the Holy Spirit, but they certainly got the Lord in them because they can do with anything they please. They got their own personalities.
Yeah, right.
You gotta have a little sense of humor in these things, don't you, Randy?
Yeah.
And God did make all the animals. In fact, he made all of us.
He did.
And look at us, we're all different, unique. Every leaf on the tree is unique, every cat's different. Some of us have some of the same features, but there's a reason for all that. I don't know what all God's reasons are. Do you all?
Haven't figured that out. We
Haven't
will
figured-
someday,
That's
maybe,
right. That's right.
We see some of that.
Until you walk that walk into heaven, you know, and then you hope he says, a job well done, come on aboard. So, we got, Lucille Landingham there, and I was trying to think if there's anybody else I've missed here, and Dan Stickrod, and of course then Kenny Brown. All this happened this week, and I thought, well, what's the synonym here with them for all of this? What's their unique characteristics? And you know what it was? The Spirit of the Lord. Love. The greatest gift from God, the gift of love, right, Randy?
Right.
And, the gift of love. Now, Dewey Sanders is one of the most loving counselors I've ever met. He was a counselor I know of for my niece, Cindy Stephenson. And she could not have had a better counselor. And she was a wonderful young lady, wasn't she?
She was fantastic, I couldn't believe it.
And she just was, with the Spirit of the Lord, with all that she had been through, fire destroyed her complete face
When she
at
was a
age
kid.
5.
Yeah,
And little gown caught on fire, and it was the kind tied at the top of the neck, and couldn't get it off. And unfortunately, it just almost destroyed her face. And if it wasn't for the Shrine Burn Institute, you gotta give credit where credit is due, and the Lord, she would not have been alive. But she went ahead, worked her way through high school, and worked her entire life for Formica Corporation, where her dad worked, and her dad and mom did the best they could do for her. And with the Shriners' help, my brother stayed in the Masonic Lodge all those years, was master of the lodge, and I've always contributed to the Shriners and tried to help, because they really did a beautiful job, didn't
they
they?
really did. It was wonderful.
Wonderful, and the church.
And you did too, though. You were her salvation in so many ways. When she really needed help, you really stepped up, John, and that's so important. That's where you live your faith out.
I heard, by the way, today that Shriners Hospital is going to be moving from our area.
Oh, is that right? No, I didn't
They're
hear
gonna
that.
relocate to another city, but I just heard that today, and they do a great job.
Boy, they do, certainly do a great job. I hadn't heard that. I had to check into that. Now, Dewey, we've talked about these 3 individuals that have gone on to heaven.